Hey, welcome to Facts at 5. I'm Michael Clark. It is Friday, June the 19th. I'm here with Town Supervisor Peter Van Scoyoc. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Well, thanks for joining us. And I wanted to get right to it and talk a little bit about Governor Cuomo and some of the things that he's been up to and how those things might impact the East End, if I could. We could start with the legislative package that he laid out, I guess, last Friday, called the Say Their Name Agenda, which New York banned officers from using chokeholds, prohibiting false 911 calls that are based on someone's race, and made the state attorney general the independent prosecutor in killings of unarmed citizens by police. And it's also part of the legislation was that the statute known as 50-A, which I previously made disciplinary records of police officers, corrections and probation officers, firefighters, and other first responders confidential. Now, I guess they will be. So now he's also mandated that you need to develop reform plans with community input in order to be eligible for state funding, and the agencies have to do that by April 2021. So what's your feeling on that, Peter, and how's that going in terms of the town of East Hampton?
Well, it's obviously this is in response to the horrific events that we've seen with the death of George Floyd and Taylor and others at the hands of police. I will say that here in East Hampton, we've benefited from having a terrific police force that is really engaged with the community. Those relationships are built up within the community, and community policing is the basis on which we enforce the laws here. We're always looking for compliance. We're looking for public safety. We want the public to feel comfortable calling the police in any situation. And I'm very proud of our force. We've, I think, led in many ways, and I don't think it's going to be very difficult for our department to adapt to whatever changes may be required. I suspect that some of those changes will already be in compliance with. And I know in talking with the chief, there's certainly a willingness to abide by whatever the new rules of engagement would be.
Any idea on what it would be in terms of community involvement in some of the decision making on that, or has that not been determined yet?
Well, I mean, we've already had and will continue to take community input. I know that there's been a lot of outreach to the Latino community. It's a relatively significant population within our jurisdiction. In terms of minorities, African American, the Black population is actually smaller than it was, 20, 30 years ago. It's declining. People are moving away. But we've had a lot of engagement with the Latino community and other minorities, and I think that's something that has to continue. All sectors of our community have to feel safe and protected by the police. They have to be comfortable with the police, and I was really, quite proud of the fact that after that horrific drunk driving accident where a young man was killed on his bicycle in Montauk on Flamingo Road, late last year,
Yeah.
that when I went to meet with something like 50 or 60 members of the Latino community who were looking to find out, would justice be done because the young woman's mother was a sitting judge and her stepfather was a retired judge. What I heard from the Latino community in Montauk was that they had built relationships with our police department, that they felt protected by and supported by our local police, that they had personal relationships with them. So the community outreach was evident to me. They said, we don't have concerns about the police. We have concerns about the judicial system. Will the judicial system treat this case fairly? And I reassured them that I was first of all, I was very pleased to hear that about our police department. It doesn't surprise me.
Right.
But the judicial matter I told them it would take time to work through that, but I had confidence in that as well. Obviously, that case hasn't been prosecuted yet, but so I think there's always more to do. I don't think with any business or governmental agency that one can become complacent. That I think it's always a work in progress. There's always ways to better engage with the community. There's always ways to improve upon what you're doing, and we're open to that. Um, but again, overall, I'm quite proud of our police force. It does only take one individual to
Yeah.
have a situation like this, and there's been a great deal of training, sensitivity training, but again, I don't think we can become complacent, and we're
Right.
supportive of this.
And Governor Cuomo also yesterday, in fact, signed an executive order allowing the state liquor authority to immediately suspend liquor licenses for bars or restaurants found to be violating the state's COVID-19 rules and regulations. Thought this was really interesting. And what are your thoughts on that? And especially with, now we're in 2 and heading right quickly towards phase 3, it seems. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate that he made the comments he did last Sunday in a press release, press
Yeah.
conference about the East End, and the Hamptons being one of the major problem areas, and we're all
Yeah, everybody
scratching
everybody seems surprised.
everybody. The East End Chiefs, we're looking up the records, no complaints or just minor complaints, no major problems whatsoever. So, we're moving beyond that, but, right now we have, I believe it's 45 different businesses, which are operating outdoor dining now within the town. We've turned around that application process very quickly. There are a lot more opportunities for people to be out. Dining outside is the safest way to go to a restaurant right now. Those tables are to be appropriately spaced to allow for a 6-foot distance between patrons seated. You're supposed to be wearing a mask only until you're seated. Once you're seated, you can take the mask off and partake of your food and beverage. You have to follow all those same safety protocols, spacing out. If you're queuing in a line to pick up takeout food or to wait to be seated at the restaurant, you're supposed to be, 6 feet apart and wearing masks. Again, we're encouraging people to continue to wear masks whenever they're out in public, even when they're not 6-foot distant. This is one of the best ways to slow the spread of the disease. The disease is continuing to decline. There were only 0.7% positive cases in Suffolk County out of yesterday's test of 5,476. So that's a very low percentage of positives now. We're down to 110 COVID patients countywide hospitalized right now, and not that many weeks ago it was 1,500 or more. So
Right.
this is a vast improvement. Again, it's because of everybody's efforts in social distancing and wearing masks and using good hygiene, washing your hands regularly, disinfecting surfaces. I expect the numbers will continue to decline. And if they do, then we'll be on to phase 3, June 24th. And that means that up to 50% of the occupancy of restaurants could be seated patrons indoors. We're going to allow for outdoor dining to continue in addition to the indoor. However, the total maximum occupancy that business is allowed on their CO can't be exceeded. They can distribute between the two, indoor and outdoor, whatever proportion they want, as long as they don't go more than 50% indoors, and that occupancy is based on patrons, not on staff.
Well, that's something to look forward to. I know the restaurant owners are, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
So what else is hot, Peter? What are you seeing for this weekend and or weekends to come? What's the big issue for you besides the obvious?
Well, the things that we're working on are the potential use of the state right-of-way within the downtown hamlets for use for outdoor dining. We have an
Yeah.
application that we received on last Friday and submitted it on Monday. The state's just gotten back to us today with a couple of additional requests for information. We've also talked, and we've met with the Montauk CAC rather, to discuss plans of the 1 day a week street closure. It's being proposed that we close Main Street at the Green on Thursdays, which coincides with the same day they have their farmers market. And additionally, we've talked about changing the directional flow of some of the streets in Montauk, primarily South Elmwood, would become a one-way eastbound, and that's just south of the highway at a very acute angle behind the Memory Motel, for those who are familiar with the location. And we'd like to route the traffic one way going east at that location. This would allow for additional pedestrian flow, and the idea is to get more separation of people within the business area for the most part. And it also will aid, obviously, when we do get that 1 day a week street closure. This is being done on a temporary basis, a pilot, if you will. See how it works out. It's definitely supported by the chief of police. It's been discussed as part of the traffic and parking circulation study that was done back in 2016, which, you know, had supplemented the Hamlet studies, which we've just adopted. Again, the idea is to have a safer, more walkable downtown area, improving safety for pedestrians and bicycles, and to potentially add some additional parking along the roadways.
So this really is and we talked a little bit about this last week. It really is an opportunity for you to trial something in a lot of cases, right? Some of them are obviously temporary, but other things, you know, you never know what the long-term results could be, right?
Right, and we're going to adapt. You know, if we see that there are problems, we're going to work to solve those problems. And if it works out, we may expand it. And if it doesn't work out, we'll probably abandon it.
Yeah.
So this, I think, is a good opportunity. As you say, we've all experienced a lot of change recently. Most of it's been unwelcome change. I think this is an adaptation which could actually bring long-term benefits to the area, and we'd like to give it a try. We did get significant support for this at the CAC and with the Business Recovery Committee as well. So we're expecting to try and implement this as soon as we get the necessary permissions. So stay tuned on that. Also, we recently voted our meeting yesterday to hire a communications firm to help us with communicating with the public. We know that LTV has been very good at helping us do that over the years and broadcasting our meetings and having shows like this. But we find that we still have a certain segment of the community which we don't seem to be able to reach effectively. Some of I think our social media presence could be improved, and this will help, you know, communicate with the public, you know, our proposed things like this downtown street, you know, closure and directional changes, and any other issue that comes up. We also just voted to grant about $1.1 million to various water quality improvement projects within the town. Everything from improving septic systems at some commercial and affordable housing projects, rain gardens and runoff improvements in Sag Harbor on the East Hampton side of the village. So these are also things that we're working on, have been working on, even though we're in the midst of this pandemic.
Yeah, it's kind of good to hear some other things, you know, even though you've been doing them all along, that, you know, it just makes it seem like life is going on in a more normal way. And, you know, it's good news to me. So, you know, once again, Peter, thank you so much for taking the time and doing what you guys do over there. And, you know, we appreciate you taking the time to, you know, get your message out to the people. And like you said, communication is key. I don't think you can over communicate. So whatever avenues you need to make, multi-prong approach, right? That's the only way that, you know, somewhere
Absolutely.
along the line, everybody's going to get some. So until next week, Peter, we'll see you, and have yourself a great weekend and a good week.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael. Everybody be well. Stay safe.
Be well. Thanks.